okay. Welcome
But
to Beyond the
awesome.
Surface podcast. I'm your host, Sam Salazar, founder of AI Psalms, where we explore how innovation and technology are shaping the future of healthcare and wellness. Today, I am joined by Jeffrey from Peterson Physical Therapy, a leader in personalized rehabilitation and patient-centered care. Jeffrey, how are we feeling today?
Oh, doing great. Doing very well.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sorry?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for being here. Before we dive into the business side, I'd love to hear about your story, what first drew you into the world of physical therapy, and what keeps you passionate about the work that you do today.
Oh, that's a big question, but I'll give you
And
I'll give you the
feel free. It's
give you the
okay.
brief
Safe space.
answer. So, when I became a physical therapist, no one really knew what physical therapy was, and it
Okay.
was actually a teacher who embraced a couple kids that were miscreants. And if you ever see grubby little boys out there breaking stuff, that was me.
Mhm.
He kind of dragged us aside and kind of kept an eye on us, and he said, "You should be a physical therapist."
Mm,
And frankly, I had no idea what it was, 1978. And the unemployment rate was 0% in physical therapy, and you could make $19,000 a year. So that's what drove me, because at the time unemployment was high. It was kind
yeah.
of chaos. It was not dissimilar to what's going on today in the world. Um,
Mm,
and so a guidance counselor helped me get into PT school. And then I finally learned that it was really the hand of God. It was providence that drew me into the profession.
yes.
And I have since repented of being competitive, but at the time I was pretty competitive. So if I was going to do something, I wanted to be the best at it.
Hmm.
And so I dove in and started learning. I graduated PT school in 1984, studied manual therapy, which is kind of a specialty side of physical therapy, and it was pretty new at
Okay.
the time. Um, with a Norwegian physical therapist, Ola Grimsby, did that for 4 years. And then in the meantime, concurrently, I opened my own practice,
Mm,
and I've had my own practice since 1991. I had a couple partners on and off throughout the years. And then 35 years later, 34 years later, still practicing. I would say
hmm.
the thing that keeps me passionate is I've gotten to the point where I have a skill set that can really help people. I
Hmm.
started because I wanted to help people. Then I focused on the business side, had some struggles, and then really had to get back to the roots of, why do I want to do this? I want to do this because people come to me who are in pain.
Hmm.
And, we all have a narrative we live by. We all create some narrative, some vision of our life, and then pain enters the picture and the story completely changes. So to be
Mm,
able to kind of walk alongside people and help them take a few steps out of that pain is really what keeps me going.
yeah. I'm curious, Jeffrey, was there, obviously you've been doing this for a long time. In the beginning of your practice when you were building it, was there a moment, like an aha moment, you were like, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do? Because I know you mentioned that you were encouraged to get into this space and you don't really know until you do it, right? You don't really
That's right.
know, And so I'm curious, was there like a specific moment or an experience or a story that was like, yeah, this is,
Yeah, and what's interesting is I see it with young therapists that we train, and I've taught in the physical therapy school. We have students come in and we do some teaching, and it was probably a time I was working with a patient. So we work with patients that have hypermobilities. So
mm,
their joints move. Their life kind of operates on most things, not everything, on a continuum of from really bad to really good, or like
mm,
from a fused joint to a joint that's pathologically unstable and needs surgery or
mm,
support with bracing. And I was working with a woman, and she had a lot of trust in me, and she had a lot of hypermobility, and we're working with her and trying to, and she kept asking me, I don't understand why. Like every time I would see her, she'd ask why. And I have believed, and I don't know if you know Simon Sinek, but he does a TED talk on the why, find your why. Why do you do stuff? And it hit me with the idea that why is often the least helpful question when you're dealing with pain and suffering, when you're mourning the loss of someone or loss of
mm,
function. Sometimes people get stuck in the why. And I was able to help her work through that. So it was working with that patient, Lisa, her daughter ended up working with us too. And she actually started getting better after that. And by better, meaning she was able to manage her condition without feeling stuck.
Mm,
And then about not in the early 90s, I read the definition of pain put out by the International Association for the Study of Pain. These are basically PhD guys, that neuroscientists that do nothing but study pain.
mm,
And they define pain as an unpleasant emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage. Now they've since added a sensory and emotional experience.
mm,
But the aha was, oh, I get it. Pain is not just we've studied in a mechanical model.
mhm,
You have a wound, you have a strain, a sprain, and you do these things and everything gets better and people move along. But people were not responding the way they did in the textbooks. And a
mhm,
large part of it was because the emotional side of the pain was not fully appreciated or dealt with. So that helped kind of reshape the idea of I'm not going to commit. My job isn't to eliminate people's pain. My job is to walk alongside them and help them take a step or two. You see a baby learning to walk, you take one, two steps. Next thing you know, you're taking three. You mentioned that you've been working as an actress, and when you first start working, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. These guys are all pros. And then all of a sudden, 3 seasons in, you go, okay, I it wasn't what I thought, but now I have an idea of how to do this well.
yeah,
And so it
yeah,
was probably in the early 90s, mid 90s and then interestingly, I started developing a higher level of confidence in helping people.
yeah,
And when you do things well, it kind of fuels that motivation.
yeah, absolutely. So you would agree that the physical therapy is just as important as the emotional side because
Yeah,
like
I mean, you can't absolutely. And we all want to see ourselves as machines, like a 57 Chevy. Okay, so it's sputtering, the fuel pump's not working, you replace the fuel pump, everything should work fine. It's not true with people. If you have a sprained ankle, if I'm a single mom, I was raised by a single mom, she sprains her ankle, she's got kids to care for, she's got to go to work. Her resources may be limited versus a pro athlete who has higher resources. They
mm,
each have an emotional component to that. The athlete might feel pressure to get back on the field or back on the court because he's being paid a lot of money. The single mom might feel the pressure because she's got to support her family.
mm,
So there are emotional things that impact that pain. I
yeah.
remember treating a woman who, interestingly, was in a car accident on her street, leaving for work on my birthday. So the date of injury was my birthday. She comes in, we treat her successfully. She does fine. The next year, on the same exact day, she gets in another car accident in the same spot. She comes back, we treat her. As I'm treating her for that second injury, she said, every time I get in my car and I get to that stop sign, my neck gets tight.
Mm,
Well, the stop sign is not influencing her neck. Her mindset, her thinking is influencing her neck because she's thinking
yeah.
this is where it happens. So
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist or a counselor. I did study sports psychology in terms of motivation to persist
Yeah.
in activities, but you need to appreciate and help people understand themselves a little bit to even get through a sprained ankle.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're we're living organic beings that are miraculous. We're
Yeah.
not machines.
Yeah. And Jeffrey, that makes me curious when you talk about like how I can tell that you light up when you talk about the importance of the emotional a component of it. Are there certain, I don't know, tools, practices that you give your patients outside of the clinical care that they can do to deal with that emotional obstacle that may be preventing them from healing fully?
Yeah, that's a great question. The sad part is, so the first thing, and I've kind of operated on this, the first thing is to be aware of yourself.
Hmm.
When people have an injury, the first thing to do is to look at it. Some people have an injury, they don't want to look at it. They don't want to see it. They want to just get rid of it. So
Mm,
to help people be able to look at, a total knee replacement, we see a lot of those. And there's a
mm,
scar and it's different and it's swollen. And to be able to help people look at it. And then the second thing is to get people used to touching it.
Mm.
So I have a patient right now who had, your collarbone is your clavicle, and she fractured that clavicle, and it's kind of superficial. You can feel yours, right? You feel how,
Yeah.
yeah, you can see those right there. So it was
Mhm.
fractured. She had it repaired with some wires. It got infected. They took the wires out.
Uh,
I don't know, and I'm still unsure why, but she didn't get it fixed for 5 years. So she finally found a surgeon who would fix it. Now, one of the awesome qualities of our body is if you have two bones that are broken and they rub against each other, they'll create a false joint. So she was very protective of her shoulder. She gets it fixed, everything's stable and fine. And I would move in to try to touch her shoulder. And when I would get about 2 inches away, she'd move away. And then I'd take my hand away, I'd put my hand close, she'd move away. And it was almost like this invisible force field of
mm.
not wanting to be touched. So one of the tools I gave her is just touch your shoulder, scrub it, let your husband touch it, learn to trust. So helping people, depending upon where they're at, sometimes it just puts some weight on your foot. Now we give every patient home exercises, but anybody can look up exercises online. I mean, you can go
Yeah.
web PT. I sprained my ankle. What should I do? Ice, elevate, do some electrical stimulation, wrap it up, and here are the exercises. But why don't people do it? Because they don't have the trust, they don't have the awareness, they don't have the self-awareness. So helping people be aware of when they're being protective unnecessarily, or on the other side, treating athletes, sometimes you have to help them protect themselves. So it
Mm.
really is a balance. So giving it really centers around some measure of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And the old Greek maxim to know thyself. The challenge is it's not just a psychological awareness, it's a kinesthetic awareness, an awareness of where your body is in space. And
Mm.
we see this. I love treating the drama kids because that's one of the exercises.
Mm.
Know when you're tense, know when your heart rate's beating, know where your body is in space is as equally important as knowing where you are emotionally. So
Yeah.
it really is about building trust with patients.
Um,
And
cool.
so, the stuff, and I'm old school. So a lot of the stuff, what's really interesting is a lot of the stuff that is old school is coming back again. You
Mm.
look at, I don't know if you're familiar with CrossFit.
Oh, I used to do it very
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it
very
was
brief.
big. It was probably big 5, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Functional training, medicine balls,
Yeah.
racks. If you take a picture of a PE class from 1952, you're going to see medicine balls, racks, now calisthenics are coming back in the form of
Mhm.
agility drills. Exercise is like a lot of things. It comes and goes in cycles. They just kind of rename it, but the
Mm.
principles are all the same. Our
Okay.
movement is life. So the idea of confronting an injury and looking at an injury and embracing the pain around that injury is to allow people to begin to move again. Movement is what's going to allow us to heal. And
Yeah.
when people get afraid or they get in pain, it's real easy just to stop doing everything. And
Yeah.
if you look at animals, we've had dogs forever. You see a dog who doesn't want to get up to go out and potty or doesn't want to get up to eat. That's when you know it's the end.
I know.
You have a dog, I can tell. Did I touch a
Yeah, you
point
you
there?
touched a soft spot.
Okay, it's all right.
Switching gears here. So as both a founder and CEO, you probably face tough crossroads. Do you tend to lean more with data and systems or with gut instinct and experience? And has that balance shifted over time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I started with gut and instinct, then I really went heavy with data,
Mhm.
and it has shifted as I've gotten older to realize that we don't do it for the numbers. So
Mhm.
we track a lot of data in our business,
Mhm.
and there are some key metrics that are going to lead other metrics. Then there are some other metrics that are lagging. In economists, they call it lagging indicators and leading indicators.
Mhm.
So I've learned to not focus on the lagging indicators, the growth rate, the bottom line at the end of the year, and really focus on the leading indicators. And the leading indicators are only important in that they represent behavior. Are we doing the behaviors to satisfy the customer, the client, the patient, so
Mhm.
that they come in and get the care they need, complete their treatment plans, and we track that. And if
Yeah.
we're doing a good job and we're focusing on the activities that we need to focus on, then we're successful and busy. If we're not, then things lag. Um, Same thing with the business side of it in terms of the collections. Our business is unique in that it's kind of quasi-governmental, it's highly regulated. There's a lot of there's a lot of very specific rules about who can do what, when we can do it. And then to collect, if you think about it, we've got the patient and they're paying more than they used to, but then you got the payer, the insurance company. Then we've got a referral source, the physician or nurse practitioner or chiropractor who sends patients to us.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those are each of our customers, yet we're one-on-one with the patient. So really being patient focused first, but we do have to be sensitive to other issues because they determine oftentimes what we can do and how much we can do. So
Hmm.
instead of focusing on the data, appreciating that the data represents activity. What are the key
Hmm.
activities to drive success? And I try to limit it. I'm kind of slow like that, so I get confused if there's too much stuff. So I try to limit it to just a certain number. So like
Hmm.
each position in our office has 3 priorities. In my life, I try to limit it to 3 priorities. If I can focus on those priorities, the other things will fall away. When I first got into practice, I thought I was supposed to, as a CEO, I was supposed to solve problems. And then one of my mentors told me, well, if you're a problem solver, what do you think people are going to bring to you? Problems.
Problems.
Same thing with patients. I thought I had to solve their problems. It's not my job. We developed a promise. We're going to unconditional positive regard. We meet them right where they are and
Hmm.
help them move one step forward.
Yeah.
It's not to solve their problems, it's to help them take one more step. When you're relearning to walk after an injury, you take 1 or 2 steps. Next thing you're like, oh, I can do this. And
Hmm.
pretty sure you're walking across the floor, as the song used to say, the old Christmas movie. You don't remember that one, you're too young for that one. I
I don't
won't sing
remember
it, but
that one.
yes,
But I really like that you said that we don't, we don't promise to solve your problems. We're here to, like you said, meet you where you're at. And Jeffrey, I think that is really important because, a lot of us may come in there thinking this is the answer to everything, right? And it's like it's an ingredient to the soup. Very important
yes,
ingredient. So it tastes good, but there's other ingredients, other factors, and a lot of times it's up to us as well because you can be doing, all the work, the physical work, and even again, like you said, giving the emotional advice and guidance. But if the person isn't actively doing the work, it's going to be a slow, uphill battle. So I really like
absolutely.
that you said that.
It's like any relationship. There needs to
Yeah.
be some engagement and participation. And I love
Yeah.
the metaphor of soup because our as beings, as humans, we're more like a pot of soup than we are like a 57 Chevy.
Yes, yes, 100%. And if it's up to me, I'm gumbo soup. That's my
You're
favorite soup.
gumbo. You're the spicy gumbo soup. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, if it were me, I'm an Irish stew that has like potatoes and not much else.
I got not much else. I was like, I gotta try Irish soup. I haven't. Have you been
Yeah,
to Ireland? Have you spent some time
I
out
have
there?
not. I have not,
Right.
not yet. It's on my bucket list, but
You
let's
gotta
face
do
it, the
it.
Irish are not known for their cooking.
But I'm sure they're known for their beer. Okay.
They're known for beer and they're known for being very loyal and fun people to be around.
Yes, and hey,
Yes,
that's just as important as soup.
absolutely. Yeah.
So question, as Peterson physical therapy continues to grow, what have been the biggest challenges in maintaining both clinical quality and operational efficiency? And do you see a role for AI in easing that tension?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, our business is high touch, high staff, um, and the reimbursements are going down every year. So when I
Mm,
started, reimbursements from the time I started in 1992 doing my own practice to today, about 35-40% less. But rents
mm,
have gone up, salaries have gone up. Trying to find staff, PT students, physical therapists come out of school with on average about $130,000 worth of student debt. So they're going to want to make enough money to pay to support their families and pay down the debt.
mm,
So it's a challenge there. Uh, so I do believe that AI and I've been experimenting with some AI in terms of it's been helpful in terms of writing, managing meetings. We've kind of toyed with AI in the area of billing and collections.
Mhm.
I have the sense with AI in that area that you're too young to remember when Betamax first came out and then VCRs came out. And
I know VCRs. I know VCRs.
yes, you know VC, but you don't know Beta, do you?
No, no.
Yeah, little. I had a Betamax machine. A lot of people had Betamax machine, and then what happened is that technology went away because the VCR took over. Well, then after VCR, it was CDs or even I don't know if you remember there were the big laser discs for movies and even with music, we used to love listening to albums. Now albums are back.
Right.
And then I remember as a kid when the 8-track tape came out, that was like the coolest thing because you could rewind and listen to what you wanted to. And
Yeah.
then the cassette tape came out. Well, then so my sense is, my point being is, I've seen the technology kind of come and go. And with I think we're in the early enough stages that there's going to be some weeding out of some of the stuff that's not so helpful.
Mm.
And so I've been stepping into it with some measure of trepidation to say, okay, I want,
Yeah.
because what happens is we have a system of doing things and it may not be the most efficient, but it is effective because it's highly dependent upon individuals and the people and the processes that they engage in. And to make a change like that can really upset a fragile ecosystem that's producing pretty well.
Mm,
But
okay.
but at the same time, as a business owner and as the CEO, my job is to continue to look at, well, how can we do things better? How can we introduce technology to help us be better, not just for the sake of technology?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at. I'm kind of walking that line.
Yeah.
I may be at a disadvantage. A young therapist coming in who's been raised with the internet. I mean, I've
Hmm.
got a couple of young guys and a couple of young women that work with me that are just superstars, and they bring ideas and say, hey, we can improve what we're doing by adding this
Hmm.
technology, and it's always helpful. So there is
Yeah.
a role. I'm not sure what the role might be. It's going to be interesting to see. I could imagine someday logging on and you see a complete AI physician that listens to your symptoms, accesses a complete database all over the world, and prescribes
Hmm.
medication for you, and you go on your
Yeah.
way. The difference with what we do is people will always need to be touched.
Yeah.
But part of the healing is to get your. Have you ever had someone walk up on you and they're talking to you and they put their arm on your shoulder and you just feel like, wow. Or someone comes up, puts their arm on your elbow, and you're like creeped out. You just feel that energy. You
Yeah.
you felt the difference.
Yeah.
So, you know, touch is important, but knowing, is the person prepared to receive that, and
Yeah.
is it appropriate for the situation?
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever go away when it comes to healing. We will need people to come
Yeah.
alongside us to help us heal from trauma.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you about that one.
But if it
There's
can
only,
help us get paid quicker and get paid more, then I'm all for it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, I think that's what I personally feel like AI, if you integrate it and use it as a system that amplifies already, what you
Yeah,
are and what you do, it can be a positive experience versus
absolutely.
something completely just taking over. And especially as an artist, like, having the talks about AI writing stories and using people's likeness that have died. Like, I'm not with that.
Sure.
But I am with, other things that make processes just efficient, being seen more, getting more clients or more job, whatever that, for. So with every, I guess, innovation, there's always, upside, downside. It just depends on the person that's behind, you know,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
doing it, is going to make the biggest difference, I
Yeah,
think.
years ago I read a book and it talked about, back in the day with whale oil. I come from New England, and
Mm.
whale oil was the product for cooking, for lighting.
Yeah.
Um, and then, we went with electricity, and we went with other oils, and we went with
Hmm.
crude oil, and suddenly the whale industry disappears along
Hmm.
with some of the whales. They had to move out further. It was
Hmm.
a limited resource, but the
Hmm.
idea was that industry disappeared. I don't think the industry of medicine is going to disappear, but how we
Hmm.
do it is going to
Hmm.
change significantly. And I
Yeah.
hope for the better.
Yeah, same, same. Just like I was mentioning, the fact that one of the founders I spoke to is created this app where you can detect if you have skin cancer within like
You know
10
what I mean?
minutes. Typically takes about 6 to 12 months to get a dermatologist, get the screenings, insurance pays, all that stuff. And I'm like, that's, that's a huge deal. That can be, it can be life threatening. Like if you can, the sooner you find out these things and the faster you get on top of it, can save many lives. And so,
Absolutely, absolutely.
uh,
And what you're mentioning is an important point, is that hopefully with the idea of technology, part of my limitation with technology is always there's the human interface.
hmm
So I have, we have laptops. All of a sudden, I remember we were documenting in pen and paper,
hmm
and now it's only as effective as engaging the person around the technology. So developing a
hmm
sense of responsibility for our own health.
hmm
And that mind shift that I'm not going to the doctor to have him fix me, but I'm
hmm
going to the doctor to partner, or the therapist to partner with this person so that I can get better than get to where I want to go. And
Yeah.
so developing a personal sense of responsibility is really important around any
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree, Jeffrey, for sure.
Oh,
So I would love to end this amazing conversation with if you could go back and give your younger self, the version of you just starting out in physical therapy, one piece of advice, what would it be?
well, that's a good question. I would say don't be so volatile. Be more confident in who you are and not what you do.
Ah, I love that. I love that. I feel like you're speaking to my spirit today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
I know
good.
this
I'm glad.
podcast is supposed to be just about, but no, this is like, yeah, that was really beautiful. That
Psalms
was
is all about you.
you're gonna make me cry. Wow, I love that. I love that. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Well, we are human beings. And I know for me, I'll speak about myself. I got caught up in trying to justify myself in what I do, achievement, competition. I come from Boston. I mentioned that God literally called me to repent of being competitive. He doesn't call everybody to that. That was me. That was a personal journey that I was on. Coming from Boston, it wasn't enough to root for your team. You had to hate the other guys. You've seen the
Mm,
commercials, the Dunkin' Donuts commercial where they say Yankees suck, Yankees suck,
mhm,
Yankees,
mhm,
because
mhm.
there was this resentment for decades of the Red Sox hated the Yankees.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I realize, it's about who I am. And if I can appreciate who I am, what I do will come out of that, not try to do something to make me something, but to recognize who I am as a person, recognize who I am as a man, as a dad, as a husband, and allow my behavior to come out of that. I wish I would have started that decades ago, because I made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of things that frankly weren't beneficial.
As we've all,
Yeah,
okay.
totally.
It's called the human experience.
Yes, totally.
Well, seriously, what this is probably one of my favorite talks. Thank you
Oh,
so
cool. Thank you.
much. And I
Appreciate your time.
really, yeah, I really appreciate your wisdom and the business insight and all of the things. If people wanted to learn more about you, find your practice, find where you're located, where could they find you?
Yeah, well, they can go to our website, petersonphysicaltherapy.com. We do have a YouTube page where I go through exercises. You want to avoid neck pain, headaches. Here are some
Mhm.
simple tips.
Yeah.
So petersonphysicaltherapy.com or
Okay.
petersonpt.com.
Okay.
And we're in
Sweet.
Arizona.
Amazing.